Welcome to Financial Issues, where we join reality with truth, helping you make the most of your money by honoring God with your investments. Now listen in as we give you the practical tools and advice you need to become a biblically responsible investor.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Financial Issues. Great to be here with you this morning. I'm Seth Udinsky. I'll be taking you through the show today. Hey, I would ask you all, please pray for Shana. She is not feeling well today, so you can pray for her healing. She was a trooper yesterday and was able to join us. Hopefully, she'll be able to join us again tomorrow, but she's feeling a little bit under the weather today, so pray for her and for her family as well. Good news is she had some family members who were a little bit sick earlier. They've been getting better as well, so it's just passing. Looks like it's passing through Shana now, too. It's that time of the year, but pray for Shana's healing if you think of it, folks. Great to be here with you today. We do have a conference call tomorrow, folks. I'll mention that again later on the show. Conference call tomorrow. You should have received an alert that has the phone number, the login code for that, the time of it as well. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, if you guys want to look into this also, but I believe that it is going to be noon Central Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Let me just confirm that. And guys in the control room, if you can confirm that as well. I do believe it's noon Central Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow, January the 16th is when our conference call will be. So noon Central Time, 1 Eastern Time tomorrow. You're going to want to join us for that. Also, I want to welcome our new audience members. Of course, we do have a new audience joining us on CSN Radio. That's KLNY on the air, broadcasting all the way out in Lanai City, Hawaii. So if you're listening today in Lanai City, Hawaii, make sure to give us a shout out. Also, CSN Radio in Washington, Indiana on W209CL. That's 89.7 FM. Welcome to all of you listening. Thanks for joining the Financial Issues family today. Last thing, folks, housekeeping. Please act on the cell alerts we sent out this morning if you're a partner. Those alerts were for CD33 and TE86. These were for non-biblically responsible reasons. So make sure that you do act on those. You know, folks, it's a good reminder. Sam and I were talking about this before the show. We will certainly issue cell alerts when the need arises for biblically responsible reasons. Sometimes we'll issue cell alerts for non-biblically responsible reasons. And I want to remind you, the Financial Issues Partnership, first and foremost, we're about being biblically responsible. But we also care a lot about presenting you with good, solid companies, long-term companies that project a good trajectory of success so that you can do your best to be able to build wealth slowly. Our main goal, obviously, is that you honor God with the money that He's given you. A tertiary goal, perhaps a side goal also, is that you invest in good, solid companies. So that was really a part of what this move was here for. I would encourage you, if you're not a partner, today's a great time to become one. Our buy list is ever evolving and changing, but it's very robust now. So there's a lot of options there for you to pick. So make sure to do that today. But if you are a partner, please act on that cell alert that we sent out early this morning. Folks, the scriptures tell us in Proverbs 1, verse 19, "So are the ways of everyone who is greedy for gain. It takes away the life of its owners." Now, this verse, I believe, shows us the dangerously vampiric nature of greed. Vampiric, of course, coming from the word vampire. One of the key phrases of vampires in lore is taking away the life of a person or an entity or something like that. It's really the idea of your life for mine. Interestingly enough, the Christian experience is the opposite of that. It's my life for yours, and that was modeled for us in our Lord Jesus Christ. Greed, which is the act literally of taking and lusting after material possessions that do not belong to you, it literally feeds off of the greedy one like a parasite. So the paradox there is the more greedy you are, actually, the more you end up losing. In the end, you lose your life, takes away our very lives. On the contrary, living according to the Word of God gives life. So let's do that today. Let's live that way today, living according to the Word of God. Good reminder here from Proverbs 1:19. All right, folks, let's turn now to the markets. So yesterday, the markets started hot out of the gate. However, by midday, the indices turned course. They were heading downwards again, following a lot of question marks, basically, surrounding Tuesday's fresh batch of inflation data. So it wasn't necessarily that it was bad news. It was just a lot of question marks. The markets weren't sure what to think about it. By late afternoon, the indices were all down. The Dow Jones was the only one trying to keep its head above water. Now, before the closing bell, the markets did turn course upwards a little bit once again. These last couple days, it's kind of been a trend where the markets have had sort of a rough day for most of the day, and then at the 11th hour, more like in the 3 o'clock hours, what it actually is, 3 o'clock Eastern time, they turn and head positive. So the Dow Jones ended up finishing 0.5% positive. The S&P 500 was 0.1% positive, roughly. And the NASDAQ was about 0.25% negative. Now, the pre-markets this morning were moderately positive, thanks in part to some strong bank earnings. So we had some strong outings this morning. Quarter 4 2024 earnings season is now upon us officially. Citigroup reported this morning. Wells Fargo reported, and so did JP Morgan Chase, as well as some other financial firms to kick off earnings season. Again, this is for quarter 4 of 2024, and all 3 of those did very well. So the markets seem to like that. Currently, as we sit right now, let me refresh my screen real quickly. The pre-markets are looking great, really good. So the Dow is up well over 1.5%, the S&P 500 right around 1.5%, and the NASDAQ is creeping up towards 2%. So there was also, we saw an encouraging inflation report this morning. That was the CPI numbers. And so what we saw there, I think, really encouraged the markets overall. So we'll see how they look when they open up. Also, something to keep an eye on here. This is not starting today, but it will be next week. Our friends at Davos, and I say that tongue in cheek, Davos, Switzerland, are going to meet next week for the World Economic Forum 2025, where our world elite rulers will decide our futures and tell us which bugs we're allowed to eat. And they'll tell us that we won't own anything, and we'll be very happy about that. We'll keep you updated on any kind of gobbledygook that they talk about. Sam, is there anything that we can be looking out for as that begins? And by the way, that begins Monday and that runs through the course of next week.
Well, I hope we at least get to eat crickets as opposed to ants,
exactly,
because they seem to be a little bit meatier.
A little high in protein, right?
For that.
A little protein, yeah.
Yeah, right. No, actually, I think what I'm most intrigued about is that Donald Trump's going to be appearing virtually at the meeting after his inauguration. Yeah. So that's going to be really interesting. Is he going to rain down fire and brimstone, or is he going to try to be a little bit more amicable, as Trump sometimes can be? He does have that side from time to time. I really hope what we're going to have is a repeat of Javier Milei, the president of Argentina's speech at the WEF from last year. If you've not seen that, I highly encourage you to go watch it. It's so true and so entertaining. He just rips these guys to shreds, and I'm there for every second of it. I'm really hoping we get at least some of that from Donald Trump, and I think we might.
Same here. Sam, could you do me a favor? Maybe during this break, if you could find that clip, send it to me, and we can put it in the chat for people to be able to watch last year. Yeah. Definitely. That is awesome stuff. Yeah, folks, we need to come right out and say this. Most of the people at Davos are incredibly, unfortunately, really evil people. That is an evil organization, a worthless organization, the World Economic Forum, much like the United Nations. And so praying against it, I think, is actually a virtuous thing to do.
You also can be always amused by their very silly pie-in-the-sky plans that are never going to happen, and if they did, would be incredibly ridiculous, although disastrous.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's a good reminder, Sam, that, a lot of the stuff that they're saying is just so off the wall that we almost, hopefully, I'm hoping that we don't have to ever worry about actually the implementation of some of those things, because there are enough people in the world who do have common sense. So that is good news there. Sam, let's get to a quick headline here. We saw the potential here for possibly millions of jobs to be lost without tax cuts. What can you tell us about this?
Yeah, let me get that headline for you. Although, real quick, Seth, I do want to give you that update on and for our audience, for the situation with the conference call that is happening to confirm at 1 p.m. Eastern time.
1 p.m. Eastern time. Awesome. Thanks. So 1 p.m. Eastern, folks.
What you said, but
and that's 12 Central, 11 Mountain Time, 10 o'clock Pacific time. Okay, folks. So that's going to be tomorrow for the conference call. Thank you, Sam.
No, thank you. I just wanted people to get on those, because that can be very helpful.
For sure. Mark your calendars, definitely.
So as you said, that there's a new study that came out. It was from the National Association of Manufacturers, showing how important it's going to be for Congress to get on this issue of these tax cuts, re-upping Donald Trump's 2017 tax cuts, because according to this survey, it shows that 6 million jobs could be lost if those tax cuts are not re-implemented, just because of the pure economic chaos that it could cause, because since 2017, that's a long time. So this has been factored into the economy for some time now. So if that goes away, that's going to cause all kinds of problems. Parts of it have already been phased out, but the core cuts still remain in place. That study estimates that the U.S. economy will face $540 billion in lost wages and over $1 trillion in GDP shortfall if those cuts go away. But thankfully, House Speaker Mike Johnson and other Republican leadership, they seem dead set on keeping those those cuts in place. They are set to expire at the end of the year, but I'm thinking they're not going to let that happen.
Now, Sam, is this tax cut here, because this was from Trump's first era, is this in his hands at all, or is this now in the hands of basically the folks on Capitol Hill?
This would be in responsibility of Congress to re-up this. I mean, Trump has the bully pulpit, so he can whip them into shape.
Sure.
And let's say Republicans didn't want to do it, he could encourage them to do it. But I think they're going to do it.
Yeah, good stuff. Thanks for keeping us updated on that, Sam. All right, folks, we're coming up on a break here. Coming up next year, I'm really excited to share with you some great wisdom from Shana just on investment basics. So we'll get right to that coming on the other side of this break here. We are live this morning, so I do hope you'll join us on the chat there. We are live again, financialissues.org/live. So join us on our lively chat as always. We'll be right back after this break. Stick with us. How is Timothy Plan continuing to lead the fight as you guys now enter your fourth decade of leading this fight of biblically responsible investing?
We've been too silent for too long, and we can no longer be silent. You stand up, like Ronald Reagan said, we're only one generation away from losing all of our liberty. It has to be fought for. I wish it didn't. And you can fight for it. You don't need guns and ammunition and that. You can fight for it, especially with your dollars, because it's always about the money. And when the money starts impacting people, they start paying attention. When we launched this, they said it couldn't be done, but here we are 30 years later. They said you couldn't get competitive returns, but here we are.
What a tremendous testament of God's grace.
Go to financialissues.org/Timothy Plans to learn more about Timothy Plan.
We believe in being faithful stewards of what God has entrusted to us, and nothing is more important than investing in the next generation. The most impactful way to do this is by sharing the message of Jesus with young people. Crossroads Kids Club is an after-school program that brings the gospel to elementary school children in public schools nationwide. Together, we can make a lasting difference for the kingdom. To learn more and join the movement, visit reachOurschools.com. Again, that's reachOurschools.com.
Hi, this is Shana Burt, the host of Financial Issues. The Financial Issues family is so blessed to have saved tens of thousands of babies, all thanks to the generous support of you, our listeners and viewers. For $140, you can sponsor 5 ultrasounds. Please go to preborn.org, that's preborn.org, or financialissues.org and click on the Preborn logo. Save a baby, save a life.
Folks, do want to remind you, conference call tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 Central Time, 11 Mountain Time, 10 o'clock Pacific Time. For tomorrow. Conference call. Make sure that you join us. That's a great partner benefit. We want to make sure that all of you can join us for that to hear Shana's great wisdom. Speaking of Shana's wisdom, we do have some great wisdom here in some of these clips. Just some investment basics here. And I think this is a really good reminder for us to constantly be rehearsing the strategy, understanding the strategy, making sure that we're implementing it. So this first clip, Shana answers I believe it's a caller, talking about the pre-markets. What is the pre-market? Why we look at it every day and what that means for us. So here's Shana Burt talking about the pre-market time.
You say this all the time. I've been listening for years, and I just wondered, what is a pre-market?
So the stock markets are open from 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time to 4 p.m. So that's when, I don't know if you've ever seen a visual of the floor of the New York Stock Exchange or any of the exchanges like that. What traditionally has happened is that there's buyers and sellers, and it is a market system. So you have people saying, I want to buy X number of shares at this price. And then you have other people called market makers that say, okay, we'll sell it for this price. So, and then there's a difference between the buying price and the selling price, a very small difference, and that is the spread. That's how the market makers get paid. So pre-market typically refers to the time period between 8 a.m. and 9:30 a.m. before the market actually opens. So orders can't actually be executed at the exchange until the market is open, but there are market makers who will take orders from their clients during that time. So what happens in the pre-market, it kind of gives you an indication of what orders are going to be executed once the market actually opens. So it tends to tell us, there's going to be a lot of activity in a certain stock or a certain company. And that activity is either going to be positive and push the price up or negative. So there's a measure of what's happening. It tends to be an indication of how the market's going to open and trade for the day.
Okay. All right. Great. I just wondered, so what they're doing is measuring what is happening in the pre-markets according to where the bids are higher or lower.
Correct. You got it.
Okay. I just want to say I appreciate you guys. We have done so well. We've been in the market for years, but only in mutual funds. And in mutual funds, I shouldn't have been in, but I didn't know any better. So you guys check it out, you guys who are listening. But, since we've been fully invested with you guys, I've never been caught in the market the way it's run up here lately. So we really appreciate everything you guys do. So.
Well, we appreciate
Awesome,
you too,
Robert.
Robert. Thanks for sharing and encouraging other people.
Folks, that then leads to kind of the next follow-up question there that I was thinking of certainly would be, when is the best time to invest? Now, it could be time of day, could be season of your life as well, but Shana answers that question with this next clip here about when the best time to invest might be. Here is our host, Shana Burt.
Steven, he's saying, Shana, I left my employer and the market dropped just when I was about to roll over from my employer-sponsored 401k into an IRA. I'm not required to move it now, but there is some urgency as I'd like to invest it following the BRI strategy as soon as possible. Should I wait for market recovery? Thank you and all the FI staff for blessing us. So, Shana, the big question here is, when is the best time to get into the market, and is there a best time to get into the market?
That's a really common sentiment that I see. When people are, because I've been in the business for a really long time, and, there's times when the market's up, there's times when the market's down, and, people start to get kind of in their heads a little bit. It's a psychological thing that, if I'm down, I need to wait until things recover before I do anything differently. But, the overarching question for me, because, he mentions here that he really wants to be biblically responsible. So when is the best time to honor God? The best time to honor God is always immediately.
All the time.
So if the Lord has put something on your heart, God can be trusted. He knows everything. He's wise. He loves us. He is working things out for our good. So we can always trust him. If he's put something on our hearts like, hey, it's time to get biblically responsible, the best time to do that is immediately. So, that's the driving factor for me. The other thing that you can think about is that, if your investments are down, it's not like you're getting out of the market or out of your investments and staying. What's happening is that you have to go to cash. You have to move the money to another account, an individual retirement account, and then you're going to get to redeploy that money. So what's going to happen is that you're going to, I would do it over a relatively quicker time frame, maybe over 3 months or so, especially if you're young and you're making it a sideways move. So you're really going from something that's down to potentially something else that's down just as much. So it makes the decision to honor God even easier. That's the overarching decision, really, is to be biblically responsible, to honor God in what you're doing. And then, you really can think of it as a sideways move.
Folks, when we think about what Shana mentioned there with having trust in God, oftentimes that can be really tough, especially when we're considering what's going to happen to our money after we're gone. And so we talk about that often on the show. This next clip, Shana answers a question about passing an account to a beneficiary. I hope this can be helpful for you. Here's once again our host, Shana Burt.
When my wife and I pass away, the non-qualified account, how does that work when it's given to a beneficiary? I was trying to explain it. I thought it was just the tax deal on the end about the capital gains. Can you explain that to me?
Sure. How is it structured? Is it structured as a transfer on death, or like do you have beneficiaries listed on the account?
Yes.
That is a great way to make a non-qualified account easily passable. So you can make it a non-probate asset by having those beneficiaries listed. So what happens when you go home to be with the Lord? Now, if it's a joint account, your wife remains the owner, becomes the sole owner on it after you pass, or vice versa. When both parties have passed, then the assets are split up according to the instructions that you left as you designated beneficiaries, so as percentages. When that happens, all the brokerage firm will need is a copy of the death certificate, and then they set up accounts in each of the beneficiaries' name, and the assets are distributed according to the percentages that you left. And since it is a non-qualified account, they do get what's called a step up in cost basis. So let's say that, maybe you've had the account for a long time and maybe you're up 100%, in overall. Maybe the values have doubled. Well, the good news is that when they inherit those positions, the cost basis is going to step up to whatever the market value is on the day that you went home to be with the Lord.
Hope that can be helpful for you there as well as you're considering that aspect, folks. This last clip here, just talking about dollar cost averaging down, specifically with tax advice. I know that might be something that many of you might be wondering about. So here is one more time our host, Shana, with some great insight.
I'm trying to understand how to dollar cost average down, and also take the same concept and look at how does the IRS look at selling our selling stock. There's a hypothetical situation. If I had a security that I bought 90% over a year ago or 2 years ago, and within the past year I bought 10%, and within that past year I sold back 5%, how would the IRS look at that? Would they look at that as a short sale or a what capital gain would they call that?
Okay, so to answer your first question, the way that you average down your cost basis is it's similar to what you just said. If you buy shares of a stock that are $20 a share, and you buy 100 shares, and then the price goes down, let's just say it goes down 50%, it goes down to $10 a share. Well, if you invest the same amount in there, you buy the same number of shares, that's going to make your cost basis $15, right? So not $20 anymore, not quite 10, but it's going to make it 15. Now, your brokerage firm is going to report cost basis on your shares. So you can't, the way that the IRS is going to look at it is how you tell them to look at it. So you can tell them that you've sold certain shares, and you can identify those lots of shares, but it takes some reporting on your tax form to do it. Otherwise, it's going to be the way that most brokerage firms calculate cost basis is just average cost. And then they're going to send you a form at the end of the year, reporting what that is. You have to make a special effort to elect which shares, or to tell them what shares that you have sold. It's a little bit cumbersome to keep up with.
Okay, so they're going to probably get a portion of that will be a short, what's the capital gain? I forgot. Short-term gain, and a portion will be a long-term gain, right?
If you sell shares.
Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, most brokerage firms tend to take an average cost basis in the way that they calculate it. Now, you can go in, I don't know about all brokerage platforms, but you can go in, I know on the platform that we use, you can tell the brokerage firm which cost basis strategy you want to use. You can tell it to sell, my oldest shares first. You can tell it to sell the shares with the highest cost basis first to kind of minimize your capital gains, tax, so on and so forth.
So when I'm using Fidelity and I go in and make a sale, how do I tell them that?
You may want to call support and ask them the logistics. I don't actually use the discount brokerage platform. I'm in private practice, so I'm really only familiar with how to use mine. But I would just maybe call customer support and ask them to walk you through how to elect or how to designate which shares you're selling.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, Keith. Thanks for calling. We appreciate your partnership.
Hope you all were able to enjoy that good wisdom and insight from Shana Burt. Well, we're coming up on the end of this segment here, so if you have to leave us, we hope you have a great day today, and we hope you, again, mark your calendars for tomorrow's conference call at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 Central Time. Folks, coming back on the other side of this break, I got a special guest with me. Brad Hopp is a member of Samaritan Ministries and also is a defender of young women against human trafficking. You're not going to want to miss this interview. It's really good stuff, so we'll be coming back with that as well as more financial issues right after this break. Stick with us.
Where's Mima? We found out Shepard's diagnosis when I was about 17 weeks pregnant. We learned that he was going to need a series of surgeries after he was born in order to give him what they considered a normal life. And we weren't sure how this worked.
Yeah, very emotional, very, very broken. And as my wife just said, not sure how this worked. And called Samaritan, and they said, you just go have that baby. You leave the rest to us.
And just to hear the confidence on the other end of the phone of, this is not something that you need to be concerned about at all. You focus on the health of your family, the health of your baby, and we will walk with you every step of the way.
When a woman comes into a center, she's being pressured from her family, from her friends, by her circumstances, by the rhetoric of the culture to believe that this is a quick and easy way out. If a woman sees her baby on ultrasound, it doubles the likelihood that she'll choose life. And on top of that, we share the gospel of Jesus Christ with her. This is why you should support preborn. The donations that you give actually make a difference. Last year, 59,000 babies were saved because of what you have done and with your generosity. And so we just encourage you to make a difference at whatever degree you can, whether you can do a $28 contribution for one ultrasound, whether you can underwrite an ultrasound machine for $15,000 or 10 ultrasound machines for $150,000. Where does the Lord have you so that you can make a difference?
To find out how you can support the life-saving mission of Preborn, go to preborn.com/FISM.
Every day, kids all across America are coming to school with some kind of hidden pain.
I've seen kids come in who are just so confused about what's right and what's wrong, just having no idea that God loves them. And this just breaks my heart. Crossroads has the opportunity to bring the Word of God right into the public school, to reach children right where they are.
And when we see that happen, we see God changing lives.
We want to see kids not only come to Christ, but pursue a lifelong relationship with Him. And so local churches are uniquely positioned to disciple those children as they become young adults and through their lifespan.
Crossroads comes alongside a church and provides that church with a club structure, curriculum, training, and ongoing coaching for them to run these outreaches in public schools.
If you are burdened for the children of America, consider making a donation to Crossroads Kids Club. For more information, visit reachOurschools.com. That's reachOurschools.com.
Securities offered through G.A. Reppel & Company, a registered broker-dealer and investment advisor, member FINRA and SIPC. Opinions expressed by Shana are hers alone and are for informational purposes only, and do not necessarily represent those of G.A. Reppel or the outlet on which you are listening. You should consider how the information applies to your situation prior to personally implementing it, and consult any financial professional you work with to make sure it's applicable to your financial plan.
Well, thanks for sticking with us on Financial Issues here, folks. Do hope you'll join us for our conference call tomorrow. Hope you've acted on those sell alerts as well that we sent out yesterday. So make sure to check those out via your email or the alerts page on the website. Again, those are for CD33 and TE86. Not for biblically responsible reasons. Make sure that you act on that, though. Okay, I've got a special guest on the program today here, folks. I've got Brad Hopp. Brad is a Samaritan Ministries member. He's also the owner of a business called Teshua Tea, and he is a defender of young women against human trafficking. I'm thrilled to get to talk to Brad here. So folks, here at the ministry, we're all about, as you know, defunding darkness and funding the light. One of the most egregious ills that we seek to lead you in your investment dollars, keeping your money out of it, is the wretched act of human trafficking. Now, it's interesting. Sam and I were talking about this the other day. We've been focusing a lot of our efforts on fighting against the LGBTQ nonsense and on abortion as well. And that part of that is just because that's part of the cultural zeitgeist right now. But there is also modern day slavery. And it is absolutely egregious. And that's also one of the things that we screen against in our investments. Sometimes it's overlooked. I've seen some numbers between 40 to 50 million slaves in the world today. That is an astronomical number. It's estimated about 90% of labor trafficking happens in the private economy, and human trafficking generates a whopping $150 billion a year, with about 2/3 of that coming from sexual exploitation. So this is just awful what this is happening here, folks. And this is part of why this is one of the things that we screen against. So I'm thrilled to have Brad with me. Brad, again, is a member of Samaritan Ministries, and he also, again, runs this business that uses some of its proceeds to fight against the horrors of human trafficking. So Brad, welcome. Great to have you on the show, brother. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your business, and how you fight against human trafficking.
Hey, it's thanks for having me on. So,
yes, sir.
Teshua Tea Company was started almost 7 years ago, and we started with the premise that we wanted to be able to, like you said, combat this, and over time it's grown to the point where with my wife and I, she runs our printing business and I do this, and so we have gotten to a point where we want to be able to take 100% of our proceeds from Teshua after employees wages and all that stuff. We want to be able to take 100% of our donations, our profits, and any donations, and be able to put it into anti-trafficking, working with missionaries, working with different organizations that are fighting trafficking, and more importantly, helping the girls recover. Because you can help the girl, you can get the girls out of it, but if you don't give them a solid base from which to recover, if you don't give them the gospel, if you don't give them that knowledge base, teach them to read and write, teach them how to work, do all these different things that a parent should be doing and would be doing if they were in the picture. We do that, and we do it on a long-term basis, and so we're able to send the girls out as a fully recovered person. And I always say, there's a word in the Bible that talks about the dunamis power, the dynamite power of God, when we send these girls out, I want them to be a stick of dynamite in the hand of God that will literally explode in the nations that they're working in, and be able to be the hands and feet of the next stage of recovery for recovering other girls, rescuing other people. I don't want them just to go back out into life and live their life and do nothing for the gospel. we want them to be fully empowered and equipped so that they can go out and multiply our efforts and help us do even more.
Brad, that is awesome, man. So cool that this is what you guys are doing. Give us a picture of how you guys specifically do this. So you said after you pay your employees, after you cover all of your business expenses, 100% of the rest of that money goes to fighting human trafficking. What are the specific things that you guys use that money for?
So we have 2 rescue houses in Asia right now, in a really large country in Asia, which I don't say on air just to protect the people there.
Yep.
But we have 2 rescue houses. We have 63 girls that we've rescued so far. We get them medical care. We get them crisis pregnancy counseling, food, shelter. It costs a lot for the rent, for all these different things. But then as we grow, we want to be able to replicate that in other countries and be able to work with other organizations and groups that are doing the same work. But because Andrew, my business partner, has had such success over in this country in Asia, he has really been able to, he and the team have been able to establish a mode of operation that really will long-term be able to help these girls recover, and so we want, like one of our girls, for example, is a licensed insurance agent now. One is a licensed beautician, has opened her own beauty salon, and we can help them pay for those things, the education that they need. We can help them pay for opening a beauty salon, and she opened that beauty salon with this whole intent of being able to have space for the younger girls to come in and work and be able to carry on what we're doing. So I think it's a really replicatable system.
Yeah. It's awesome, man. Absolutely. So, Brad, as I mentioned earlier, we offer here at Financial Issues an investment strategy that screens out companies involved in human trafficking. Sadly, there are a lot of big companies out there that use human trafficking as part of their labor to be able to make their money. And we have said as a ministry, we want no part of that because of how wretched this is. How can average, everyday folks like us get involved? Because you're doing some amazing work there. How can the rest of us get involved as well in helping to rescue these victims, present them the gospel, and like you said, have them just be that dynamite force to be able to go out and then to replicate that? How can we do that?
So we have a website, teshuatea.com or deliverancetea.com, and you can go on there and we have a give, under our give tab, you can have two different ways of giving. You can give directly to Teshua House, our rescue homes, or you can choose to also give into our capital campaign that we're doing right now, where we're actually trying to open a full coffee roastery where we're able to have more space for order fulfillment and stuff like that, and be able to take more products out into the marketplace. So.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Absolutely. And then last thing here, Brad, you are a member of Samaritan Ministries. We're all of us here at the ministry, full-time employees, members of Samaritan as well. How does that membership help you financially to be able to focus so much of your proceeds on helping these trafficked, these girls who have been, through this?
Well, simply from the fact that Samaritan cost-wise is drastically less than
it's such a great insurance. It's so much better. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. I mean, I was hearing some friends of mine were talking, and their insurance is like, I want to say it was like several thousands of dollars a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just to be able to have, health insurance. And we're on the highest tier plan with Samaritan, and I think it's like $700 a month.
Yep.
So the cost savings for us has been huge.
That's awesome, man. Brad, we appreciate you so much. Thanks for coming on our show once again, folks. Oh, yes, sir. Absolutely. Just a reminder, it's teshuatea.com, Brad. Is that right? teshuatea.com?
Yep.
Awesome.
Or they can go to deliverancetea.com.
Okay, deliverancetea.com. Great.
Yep.
Man, we appreciate so much, Brad, the work that you do, and you can be sure we'll be praying for you and trying to support you guys in any way that we can. Thank you for being the hands and feet of Jesus Christ in an area of the world that is so desperately needed. So God bless you, brother. Thanks for joining me today, Brad.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
appreciate
sir.
it.
Absolutely. Folks, that's Brad Hopp, Samaritan Ministries member, doing some great work here. So again, check them out at teshuatea.com. We got the Ag Report coming up here, folks, and then we got more financial issues coming right after that. So you're going to want to stick with us. Here comes Craig.
This is Craig Haugaard with your Financial Issues Ag Update for January 15th. The corn had its first setback since the USDA surprise last week. The funds were still buyers as they added 10,000 contracts to their position yesterday, but U.S. farmers selling more than offset the fund buying. As a result, March corn was 2 cents lower at $4.74 per bushel. Soybeans took a breather yesterday as conditions in southern Brazil and Paraguay look to be improving in the 7 to 14-day weather model. The extreme temperatures will likely moderate in Argentina this weekend and should bring some rainfall, but more is going to be needed. At the close, March beans were 5.5 cents lower at $10.47.5. The 6 to 10-day forecast showed sub-zero temperatures sweeping across the U.S. plains And as a result, winter wheat prices found a bit of support, while the spring wheat prices slumped. Minneapolis March wheat was 4 cents lower at $5.89.5. Kansas City was 1/4 cent lower at $5.60 3/4, and Chicago was a penny and a quarter higher at $5.46 1/4. Cotton futures were slightly lower in a very uninspired session. The closing bell, March futures were down 14 points, settling at 67.50. Livestock futures were unchanged and stronger. February live cattle futures were unchanged at $197.40 per hundredweight. March feeder cattle were 30 cents higher as they closed at $268.20 per hundred. And we had the February lean hog futures rising by 45 cents as they closed out the session at $86.62.5 per hundredweight. Class 3 milk futures saw the bottom kind of drop out of the market as we were down sharply. In fact, at the close, February futures were down 75 points at $19.85. Well, this has been Craig Haugaard with your Financial Issues Ag Update. We'll be right back with more financial issues after this.
Folks, I want to remind you about coming alongside us as soldiers with us in the battle that we are up against. And boy, we are up against a battle. Join so many others now that are giving $20 a month. It has really helped us to keep our head above water.
For years, monthly donors have stood alongside us as we defund the darkness. Will you join us in the fight? Go to financialissues.org/donate. Through the ministry of Preborn, the Financial Issues family has saved tens of thousands of lives of babies. What an amazing job that God has done through you, the Financial Issues family. Would you join us in saving the lives of babies? What an amazing reunion we will have in glory, meeting all the people that we have saved. Please go to preborn.org, that is preborn.org, or financialissues.org, and click on the Preborn banner.
Every day, kids all across America are coming to school with some kind of hidden pain.
I've seen kids come in who are just so confused about what's right and what's wrong, just having no idea that God loves them. And this just breaks my heart. Crossroads has the opportunity to bring the Word of God right into the public school, to reach children right where they are.
And when we see that happen, we see God changing lives.
We want to see kids not only come to Christ, but pursue a lifelong relationship with Him. And so local churches are uniquely positioned to disciple those children as they become young adults and through their lifespan.
Crossroads Church with a club structure, curriculum, training, and ongoing coaching for them to run these outreaches in public schools.
If you are burdened for the children of America, consider making a donation to Crossroads Kids Club. For more information, visit reachOurschools.com. That's reachOurschools.com.
The opinions and recommendations expressed on this program do not necessarily represent the opinions of the station or any of the program sponsors. Additionally, all products or services offered by the program sponsors may not be known by the program.
Welcome back, folks, to Financial Issues. I did put that link. Sam was able to get that link for me from earlier in the show. We were talking about how the Davos Forum, World Economic Forum, is going to meet next week starting Monday. And we were talking about last year, Javier Milei just absolutely verbally nuked the ruling overlords there. So I put that clip in the chat. It's a little bit of a longer clip, so you might want to wait till after the show to watch it. But we're hopeful that Trump can do some of the same there. You know, we're not hoping that he's nasty or mean, but just bringing to light some of the serious ills with this organization. I believe it was Luther who said, "If the devil invites you to preach in hell, take the opportunity." And so something similar. Obviously,
Luther
it's not the gospel.
Nasty and mean sometimes,
right?
So maybe Trump can afford to be that at the WEF too.
Exactly. And obviously, folks, it is not the same thing as the gospel is so much more than uncovering the ills of the World Economic Forum. But anyway, I digress. Markets just opened, so let's take a look here. They are excited, really, really looking good. The Dow is up over 700 points, right around 1.6%. The S&P 500, same thing. The NASDAQ creeping up towards 2% here. So we got some strong bank earnings, what the markets loved. We also got core inflation. That number slowed to 3.2% in December. That was less than expected, and the markets seemed to really like that as well. The NASDAQ actually just eclipsed 2 full percentage points as we're speaking. So that's what it's looking like there. Oil is right up around $78.50 a barrel, similar to where it was yesterday. The U.S. 10-year Treasury yields down a little bit from where they were at 4.65%. So that's what we're looking like there. Okay, folks, so one of the things that we want to do on our show is we want to highlight some victories. We want to highlight some things that are going well, specifically in the BRI and investment world. And so Sam has a couple of those headlines for us that I think is really good stuff, exciting stuff. Sam, let's get this started here with what's going on at Amazon. What can you tell us?
Yeah, the DEI dominoes continue to fall, Seth.
Good.
This is
we love
amazing.
To see it. Love to see it.
Because we've been talking about this for months now, how it seems like every week another company is joining the ranks of ditching DEI, but I think I never would have imagined that Amazon would have been one of these companies, at least not now. I thought it would take much longer until they did it, but it appears they're doing it. According to internal memos seen by CNBC and Bloomberg, Amazon is scaling back at least some of its DEI practices, so they might not be going the full way, but they're beginning to make the process happen. Now, the details are not known at this time, but according to The Advocate, that's an LGBT group, they're not too happy about it. They say the changes include ending so-called gender-affirming care benefits, so that'd be transgender surgeries for healthcare benefits. Also removing a company pledge to, quote, work at the U.S. federal and state level on legislation that would provide anti-discrimination protections for transgender people. They're also removing similar pledges concerning racial discrimination. So it looks like Amazon's just trying to get out of the whole cultural politic business altogether, at least they're beginning to. We'll see how far that goes. As I said, this is not the full-blown process of ditching DEI like we've seen some other from other companies, one of which was actually Meta. Meta has been not only transforming their company to be more free speech-oriented, but they're also getting rid of the DEI stuff, too. That happened on Friday. So many things they're doing. They're ending Meta's DEI team, ending equity and inclusion programs throughout the whole company, ending its DEI approach to hiring. So this is really great stuff. All these companies appear to be concerned about the recent Supreme Court ruling about affirmative action, realizing that, hey, if the Supreme Court is outlawing this type of discrimination or racial-based acceptance into schools, maybe we can't do that for hiring practices either. So they're looking at that and saying, we need to change our situation really quick here or we're going to get sued. This also comes after Mark Zuckerberg has been cozying up to Donald Trump a little bit too. So those things are probably going together somewhat.
For sure. Sam, it's great news, man. It's such great news. There's so many things that we can consider with all of this. My question, initially with all this is why? And I would love to say, it's because these companies are waking up because they're realizing what's going on. Probably, maybe it's some of that. Maybe, like you said, it's a little more they're trying to cover their rear ends. Maybe they're realizing that with the Trump election, it's probably not a great time to be all about DEI, and maybe they're just following the crowd. That could be part of it. I can't help but think, had Kamala Harris won in the 2024 election, you think we'd be seeing this?
Oh, definitely
probably not, right?
Yeah,
probably
of
not.
Of course not.
Yeah, absolutely. So, seeing this is really good stuff. And again, Sam, like we talk about a lot, we don't really care in the final analysis the reason behind it. This is results-based. We want to see results. We would love changes of heart. Goodness, we would love everybody at these companies to come and bow the knee to Jesus Christ. That's most important. But what we're talking about, when we're talking about money and money talking and money going to different things, money going to potentially very evil things like we talked about in the last segment with human trafficking, at the end of the day, it's results-based. So whether they were forced to do this, whether they're just going along with the crowd, or whether they have somewhat of a serious change of heart, we're for it. Yeah. We love it. Absolutely. So, this is great stuff.
And I think part of it is that a lot of these companies, especially these manufacturing consumer product companies, they really weren't into the whole DEI philosophy to begin with. I think a lot of it was they just didn't want to get sued.
Right.
But now you're having counter pressure coming from the Supreme Court with this affirmative action case.
Yeah.
And so they're thinking, well, we don't want to get sued from that end either, so why don't we just try to cancel it out? It gives them an excuse to get out of the whole game to begin with. I think very few companies, apart from, say, Disney and maybe Google and others like that, really bought into the whole philosophy because they believed in it in their heart of hearts. I think a lot of it was a strategy to avoid losing money.
Yep, absolutely. One other thing to think about with this too, Sam, is this movement of ditching DEI. It's reaching the top. Both of these companies, my understanding, they're both Magnificent Seven stocks. These are big, massive companies that are now ditching this stuff. You can bet that smaller companies are probably going to follow suit, especially in the same sector as these companies. So now here's one interesting thing about this, Sam, and this will be an ongoing conversation on the show. Ending DEI is great, but it is not equivalent to becoming biblically responsible, right?
Yeah.
It's not exactly the same thing. It's wonderful. It could be a very good step, but it's not exactly the same. What are your thoughts on that, Sam?
Yeah, we get a lot of questions about this, right? So we're always harping about both biblically responsible investing, how we want companies to be biblically responsible, and we're also talking about how we don't want companies to be involved in this DEI stuff. And I understand our audience can get confused thinking what that means is that the two are directly related. If a company is DEI, that means that they're not BRI. But that's not exactly the same thing. And what you said kind of proves the point, right? So if a company is involved in DEI stuff and they're not being biblically responsible, if they get rid of their DEI programs, that doesn't immediately mean that they're good to go and they're back on the buy list. So the way I like to think about it is all the companies you've been seeing that recently have been shifting into the transgender stuff, the LGBT stuff, I can guarantee you a couple things. I can guarantee you, one, they have a DEI program at their company, and two, they're almost certainly doing those things because of what that DEI program is telling them at the company in their internal meetings. It's this internal HR pressure that's coming from them. Now, that doesn't mean that every company that has a DEI program is caving to that kind of pressure. Their DEI program might not be telling them to do those things, but it increases the likelihood that they are eventually going to slip in that. So we'd prefer them to get rid of it altogether because it creates that milieu that pressures companies into doing things that are not biblically responsible. Does that make sense?
It does. Oh, it makes perfect sense. Yep, absolutely. So really the lesson from this is please don't invest in Amazon and Meta. Still. Don't invest in Facebook. They're still not biblically responsible. But this is good news. And we can celebrate this. This is a step in the right direction. And this is not a surprise. We're seeing this. This is beginning. Hopefully you're seeing this is kind of like a snowball. We're seeing a lot of this, especially in the corporate space here. Related to this, Sam, but a little bit different, Meta, speaking of which, has been targeting their lowest performing employees in a latest round of layoffs. That's good news. It's nice to see companies actually, using common sense in their business practices, right? It seems like we didn't see that before. And now all of a sudden, part and parcel with getting rid of the DEI stuff is also, maybe we should only hire people if they're good at the job.
It's reorienting them to actually being a business and not a political arm of the left wing, a cultural political arm of the left wing. It is incredible, and I think these companies are all going to do much better for it because you remember, if you have this DEI snake wrapped around your neck, self-imposed too, I might add, they're doing this because they don't want to be attacked by the left, but then they get attacked by their own programs of their own creation. So it's a two-edged sword in that way. But when you have that, you can't always make good business decisions because, I can't lay off these people because they are gay, they're trans, they're black, they're Latino. And that's not just a good way to run a business. You want to be looking at a person based on whether they get the job done. So getting rid of this stuff, it's really going to open up good doors for those companies to do good business.
Absolutely. Yep. It's a common sense idea. The lesson here, folks, money talks, and I think money is talking very loudly right now. And we are here for it. That's a good thing. Money talking means that hopefully the result is that we'll see businesses just trying to be a good business. If you're a widget factory, you're making widgets. If you're a restaurant, you're flipping hamburgers. You're not doing any of the other stuff. So that's great news.
It doesn't seem hard, right?
It doesn't seem hard. It's very simple.
It's become hard.
It's very, very simple. And you're exactly right, Sam. It's a problem that most of these businesses have created. They've stepped into it, and now they're realizing we need to get out of this because we're not making any money doing it because it's silliness. We just need to be a good business. So, wow, busy show today, folks. It went by quickly, but I'm grateful for each of you joining us. So many of you on the chat there. I apologize I wasn't able to say good morning to you all, but it's good to see you on the chat today. And Lord willing, we'll do it again tomorrow. Again, pray for Shana. Hopefully she'll be good for the show tomorrow. And we do have our conference call one more time. Make sure that you join us tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. Central Time for our conference call. You can find that information on the website or on the email alert that went out. Remember, folks, it's all His. Let's be found good and faithful stewards. God bless.
If we ever forget that we're one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under.
Thank you for joining us. This has been an FISM production.